Luke 16. May God bless the reading of His Word. Jesus also said to His disciples, "There was a rich man who had a manager. An accusation was made to him that this manager was wasting his possessions. He called him and said to him, 'What is this that I hear about you? Give an accounting of your management, for you can no longer be a manager.' The manager said to himself, 'What will I do since he is going to fire me from my position? I don't have strength for manual labor. I'm too ashamed to beg. I know what I'll do so that when I'm fired from my position, people will welcome me into their homes.' Calling each of his employer's debtors to him, he said to the first, 'How much do you owe my lord?' He said, 100 gallons of oil.' He said to him, 'Take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, 'How much do you owe?' He said, 100 bushels of wheat. He said to him, 'Take your bill and write 80. His employer commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. For the children of the world in their own generation are more shrewd than the children of the light. I tell you, make for yourselves friends by means of worldly money, so that when you fail, they may receive you into eternal homes. He who is faithful with very little will also be faithful with much. He who is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. If you haven't been faithful with worldly money, who will trust you with the true riches? If you have not been faithful with someone else's riches, who will give you riches that are your own? No servant can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will cling to one and despise the other. You aren't able to serve both God and money." The Pharisees, who were lovers of money, also heard all these things, and they scoffed at him. He said to them, "You are those who justify yourselves in the sight of men, but God knows your hearts. For that which is exalted among men is detestable in the sight of God. The law and the prophets were until John. From that time, the good news of God's kingdom is preached, and everyone is forcing his way into it. But it is easier for heaven and earth to pass away than for one tiny pinstroke in the law to fall. Everyone who divorces his wife and marries another commits adultery. He who marries one who is divorced from a husband commits adultery. Now, there was a rich man, and he was clothed in purple and dressed in fine clothes, living in luxury every day. A beggar, named Lazarus, was taken to his gate full of sores, and desired to be fed with even the crumbs that fell from the rich man's table. Yes, even the dogs came and licked his sores. The beggar died, and was carried away by the angels into Abraham's arms. The rich man also died, and was buried. In Hades, the rich man lifted up his eyes in torment and saw Abraham far off and Lazarus in his arms. He cried and said, 'Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus so he can dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame.' But Abraham said to him, 'Son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and Lazarus, in the same way, bad things. But here he is now comforted, and you are in anguish. Besides all this, between us there is a great gulf fixed, so those who want to pass from here to you are not able, and that no one may cross over from there to us.' He said, 'Then I ask you, Father, that you would send him to my father's house, for I have 5 brothers, and he can warn them, so that they won't also come into this place of torment.' But Abraham said to him, 'They have Moses and the prophets. Let them read about them.' He said, 'No, Father Abraham, but if one goes from the dead, they will repent.' He said to him, 'If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, then they won't be persuaded even if someone rises from the dead.'"